What's up, everybody? This is a quick start guide on how to use the SanDisk mp3 player. I am not a paid shill for SanDisk brand, although if they wanted to make me a retroactively paid shill, I might not object. And this is all gonna be stuff that if you were born after the year 1980, then all this stuff is probably gonna seem self-evident to you, but this is for people who find stuff like this possibly confusing. Okay, it's an MP3 player. It has internal storage, that means you can put stuff on it even if you don't have an external chip. But you can also put stuff on it with this external chip. This is called a micro SD card. It is just a storage device. And this is called a micro SD to SD adapter. If you put a micro SD card into this, then this will fit into the SD slot on your computer. And when you plug this in, then it will show up like a drive, and then you can just copy stuff into it, and then you can just take this back out. And then when you put this in this slot and you push on it, then it goes click, and then it stays in. But if you're not using the chip, like, you can have that slot empty and it's fine, and you can just put files directly on here. To do that, use this cable. This is a USB to smaller USB, and you can plug this end into here, and then you can plug this end into your computer, and likewise this will show up like a drive, and then you can copy stuff onto it. Also, to charge this, you have a USB to power. This is plugged into the wall. It's just an extension cord. To charge it, you just plug this into here, and then it should show a battery. Let's see. There we go. It's not really showing up, but there you go. You can see it's got the battery icon, and it shows it like a little filling up animation. Okay, at the computer now, I got a couple of folder browsers open, and I've plugged the thing in through a USB hole. So on this browser, it's at my PC. That's like the root level of the computer's file directory. So C drive, that's the hard drive on this computer, DVD drive. And now this showed up as two things when I plugged it in. So this one's the internal storage on the player, and this one is the micro SD card that's plugged into it. So it turns out we didn't need the micro SD to SD adapter, because basically the player is being that right now. And on this other one, I've got this browser open to where I've got some audiobooks on my computer that, let's say, I want to copy them onto this player. So this has 8 gigabytes of space internally, and the chip that's plugged in here happens to have 28 gigabytes. So let's say we want to copy something, audiobook, onto the internal storage on the player. So we'll double click on this, and now it's got a bunch of files and folders here by default. Got Audible, audiobooks, music, playlists, and podcasts. These are just folders with names. Normally, if you're copying in audiobooks, you might put them in the audiobooks folder. Let's put them in music instead, just because I think it doesn't make any difference. And now I click on one of these, and then press Control C, and then click on this space somewhere, anywhere here, and press Control V, and now it is copying those over. Okay, let's come back when that's done and see what happens. Okay, I also took the chip out just to see what it would look like. So here's what it looks like when you plug it in and there's no chip in that slot. So you got your whatever drives are on this actual computer, and then you got this, the MP3 player's internal storage, and then this represents the chip that's not there, and that's why it looks gray. What happens if you double click on it? Yeah, it says inserted disk because there's nothing there. Anyways, now we should find this in the right place. We open up the storage of this thing, and then music, and there we go. We have a folder here. The folder is full of MP3 files, and this is fine. You can put a folder within a folder here. That's just fine. You could put MP3 files directly into this music folder, and that's all fine too. Okay, and one thing to be careful about is that sometimes you have a folder that's mostly full of MP3s, But then there's also some other files on there, like this one for example. This is a JPG, that's a picture file, which is just the cover art. But now if I select that whole folder and Control C and then I Control V onto there, that's going to be fine. But now when you load this, open up this folder on your player, it's going to have the mp3 files that it can play, and it's going to have the other files that it can't play. And before you unplug it from the USB hole, make sure you do safely remove if you want. I don't think it actually does anything, but anyways, it's a good habit. Okay, here we are now. It's got some audiobooks on it. This player has 6 buttons on the front. This is like the forward button, and this one on the corner here is like the backwards button. And there's up, down, left, and right. And on the side, it's got volume up and volume down. To switch it on, just hold down the big button for a few seconds, and it should say refreshing your media. Yeah, I had one of these glitch out a little, and then every time it switched off and every time I switched it back on, it would say refreshing your media, and then it would lose its place on whatever it was playing. So I always get a little strike of terror when I see that screen that says refreshing your media, but it is supposed to say that whenever you've just put stuff on it and then switched it back on. And since there's a lot of music on this chip, it's going to take a while for that progress bar. No more than a minute. Okay, here we go. So this is like the base level menu. If you press left and right, you can see a few different selections, like sport. I don't know what sport does. Settings, music, radio. This has an FM radio on it. Books, folder. But anyways, folder is how you get to all these things. Like card and music are just other ways to get to the files, but folder is just where you find everything. So this is just like a lot like your folder browser on your computer. So now this has 2 audiobooks on the internal memory, and it's got like several thousand music songs on the external card. So depending on where you put it, we put those audiobooks on internal memory. So yeah. So up and down. Sorry, I forgot to mention. Press the big button to select this, and then you get to this menu, and then up and down to select between these. If we're going to internal memory, we select it and press the big button to get in there. And now here's the same files and folders that we saw on the computer, and we put that in music. So we go to music, select that with up and down, and press the big button to get in there, and there we go. There's our 2 books. And again, press the big button to get into either one. And these should be in the right order. So now in this corner it says 1 out of 19, so that's the track number. And now left and right, oh, I've got this on shuffle. Yeah, so anyways, I shuffled over to track number 14, and now if I keep pressing left, I get track 13, 12, 11, 10, press the right button, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, I guess I'll go over the shuffle thing. So when you're in like this kind of screen with a track playing, if you press the down button, you get a little menu with some options, and again you can like press up and down to go between those and see what you got. And if you go to shuffle and press the big button, then you can switch that back and forth between on and off. So now shuffle's off. Oh right, and then like press back button. If you press the back button, you can get out of whatever menu. And then, so this is the screen that it shows when something is playing. And now if I press back, it gets back to this top level menu. But then if I press back again, it just goes back to the track that's playing. And this kind of MP3 player can only play music out the audio jack hole. There's some music players that can play music out the USB hole. This is not one of them. USB is only for transferring on this, and this is the only way that the music can come out. So right now, if I put these into my ears, I should be able to hear an audiobook. Okay, a few other controls you can do with this is left and right, as I said, is for selecting a track. But if you hold down the right button, then it will scan forward within a track. See that tracker there? So now I'm near the end of that track. If I hold down left, then it will scan to like rewind, to use an old nomenclature. And now this tracker's near the start of the track. So I don't know if you hear something interesting and you want to just track back by a few seconds and just hold that down to move back a little on that track. And this also has a hold switch. If you hold down the back button for a couple seconds, now you see a padlock. So now it's on hold. So now if you bump this against some furniture and it hits the track forward or track backward button, nothing will happen aside from a padlock showing. And to unlock it, likewise, just hold that down for a few seconds. You see a padlock unlock button, and now if you bump this against your furniture, it will change the track for you. Alright, now let's see about that one file on here that's not an mp3 or any format that it can play. So let's find that. Here we go. So this folder has 13 mp3s, and then it's also got a JPG. If I select this JPG, then it just says file format not supported. And if I click any one of these, then it will say track 1 out of 13. So there's 14 files on here, but this track number is only going to show you how many that are in the format that it can play, like mp3. And sometimes, well, you know, this screen is pretty small, so sometimes when the file names are really long, then you can't actually see the file format, because like the name is like going all the way out to here. So sometimes when that's going on, you can't really tell whether you're clicking on the mp3 or the JPG. But anyways, in that case, just go to somewhere in the middle of the folder and select one of them and see what the track number is, and then track back to track 1. And so long as it is presenting the tracks in the right order, then that'll be fine. You'll be at the start of the book. Okay, a few more things to be careful about. It is possible to get your player to present the tracks in the wrong order. Here's how you can avoid that. So let's say I just made this folder here on the device and it's empty, and now I want to copy these into this folder. Hypothetically, if I were to select the bottom half of these and then hit Control C and then Control V them into here, and then I were to select the top half of these and then Control C them from here and Control V them into here, then when I load up track 1 of 13, it will start playing the book from the middle. And that's because when it presents the tracks in whatever sequence, it'll be in whatever sequence you copied them over in. So right now, like, this computer is showing me these tracks in the right order because I've got it to sort them alphabetically. When we copied over the whole folder, right? So if I click on this folder and just Control C this here and Control V this here, it will copy them in alphabetical order. And then, fortunately, what happens is that then the player will play them in the right order, because the order that you copied them in is alphabetical order, and alphabetical order means these are in order of, for example, 01, 02, 03, 04, etc. So to avoid that, either just copy the whole folder at a time and you'll be fine as long as these are in the right order, or in any there might be a case where you want to like copy the files in from directly like this. When you do that, make sure you select them from bottom to top. So if I select them from bottom to top and then I go Control C here and Control V here, then again the result will be right. But even in that other example I showed you what would happen if I copied the bottom half first and then the top half, well, even if I select these from top to bottom, and what it's going to do is going to copy this bottom one first and then the rest of them in the right order. So then again, once you load those up on your player, the track that it says is track 1 will be near the end of the book, and then it'll go from there to the start. So anyways, if you're ever copying the files directly here, if you select them from bottom to top, Control C there, Control V, your player will present them to you in the right order, assuming that you got them in the right order on this screen. And anyways, if whoever's prepared this book has named these files correctly, then they should be that should be okay. The alphabetical order as it's presented here should be the right order as the track should be played in the book. But let's say, I don't know, let's just say I were to sort these by length. If I happen to have these sorted by length, and then I just like, let's say, select all, and then copy, and then paste them, then these tracks would be copied over in essentially a random order, completely random. And then as if you play them in whatever order the player presents them in, you're going to have your book completely jumbled. So yeah, when if you're ever copying them over, like from file level, make sure you have them sorted alphabetically and select them from bottom to top, if that's ever applicable. But you know, if you can ever just like copy the whole folder, then that'll be fine, as long as they're named right, in the right order. Alright, that's pretty much it. One other note that I think I'd like to mention is that sometimes an audiobook comes in like the format where it's all one long mp3. Like if you have a 10-hour long book, it'll be in the form of a single 10-hour long mp3. Now that can be trouble because sometimes I do forget to turn on the hold switch, and sometimes I do bump this against furniture. So when I have a book that's like 10 hours long, sometimes I get like 5 hours into this book and then forget to lock it and then do bump it against something, and then, well, it takes a very long time to do that tracking to the middle of the track button when you have to track through 5 hours. So there are other programs that you can use to take a long MP3 and chop it up into a bunch of smaller MP3s. And if someone happened to have a bunch of books in that format and gave you them, if he was especially nice, he would have chopped them up first before he gave you them. And the one thing that I almost forgot to mention is that the up button is also the play and pause button. So right now, if this track is playing and I press the up button, now it is paused. And now if I press it again, now it is once again playing. So yeah, when you're like in a menu where you're like selecting from a list of things, then like up and down are to go up and down in that selection. But when it's in this screen that's playing something, then down is instead these menu items, and up is player pause.